So a question I get quite often is, how do you plant garlic? How do you grow garlic? Do you buy seeds? What's going on? How do you do it? So it's really straightforward. This right here, one individual clove of garlic. You plant this, next year, it'll be that. That's as straightforward as it gets. It's really easy. And once you start growing garlic, I guarantee you will never stop. It's a wonderful thing. Garlic is my favorite thing in the world. Growing it is really easy, really satisfying. There's just something very special about it for me. And once you start growing, you will never have to buy seed garlic ever again, because every year you'll fish out the biggest heads of garlic from your harvest, and you'll break that down into individual cloves like this guy right here. Plant those, and then you'll have garlic for next year. So your very first year, you'll need to buy some seed garlic from seed companies. Sometimes farmers markets will have them. Just go online and look it up. There's a lot of good options out there. And once you do that once, and you should be set. That is, if you're anything like me, however, you're kind of obsessed, and you will keep buying every year, to the frustration of those around you, because, you know, who needs 20-25 varieties of garlic in their garden? Well, you know, you gotta know which ones taste the best, which ones grow the best. It's all an experiment. It's all, trust me, I know what I'm doing. So this garlic here got harvested, I believe, early July. That's usually when I harvest. I can't remember exactly the date of this year's harvest. Anyway, it's been hanging up here in the barn, curing. As you can see, it's completely dry, nice and firm. So these get cleaned up. All the really big, beautiful cloves, like this one right here, I'm gonna separate out, and those are gonna be my seed garlic for this year. You wanna plant the nicest, biggest bulbs you have from your previous harvest to plant, so you get the healthiest, nicest bulbs for next year. The rest is going to go into the cupboard or into the pantry, and we will have lots and lots of garlic to cook with this winter. We love garlic, it keeps you healthy, and it just makes everything taste so much better. So for cleaning your cured garlic for storage, it's really straightforward. All you do, pair of clippers, plop, take the end off, gently cut off many of the roots, and then usually I just peel off 1 or 2 layers of the papery skin. Any parts that look kind of dirty, that way you'll end up with a really nice, clean, beautiful head of garlic. So that's one variety down, about 15 more to go. This variety right here is called Hot Yugoslavian. I've got all types of varieties up here. Anyway, the way I like to store these is in these mesh bags. They can hang in my pantry or in my root cellar. A lot of airflow, works really great. I'm going to be picking through these before I store them for all the big, healthy looking bulbs, which would be what we will plant this year. So when it comes to mending my garlic beds, I do 2 main things. One, I put a good layer of high quality compost. I get some mushroom compost from our local guy here. The other thing I do is I make my own fertilizer mix for garlic. It's a combination of bone meal, blood meal, potash, and rock phosphate. This gives a really good balance of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium for the beds, which all those things the garlic needs. And so that's what I'm going to spread on the beds right now before I till everything in. all the garlic has been cleaned. The beds are pretty much ready to go. I've got the compost on there, got our amendments added, and I've got that all tilled in. Last thing I gotta do is take a tool, draw some trenches into which we will be planting our individual cloves of garlic. So what we need to do now before we do that is we need to take the garlic we've cleaned and break it down into cloves, because each individual clove off a head of garlic will turn into a new garlic plant for next year and a whole new head. So what you want to do, and what I have here, is one variety called Rose de Lautrec. It is a very classic French garlic, and although you can't really tell when most of the skin is on there, I cleaned this one up for you a little bit so you can see how gorgeous and pink that garlic is. It's just beautiful. I love it. So this is a very classic French garlic. Think escargot with garlic butter. It's really nice, kind of sharp, a little fiery, but not too hot. Super, super good. And it sets lots of little cloves, so I can always grow a ton of plants with this. So as you can see, I've got, oh hey kitty. I got 4 different sizes of the same variety of garlic here. There's Rose de Lautrec. So smallest to biggest over here. So in this case, these 2 guys here are gonna go into the kitchen, and these 2 guys here are big enough to be used for planting. Honestly, I would probably just take all 3 of these and then take this one really big one and just break that one down. Like I said, these have a ton of cloves on there, so I can get a lot of plants out of one. So I'm gonna go through all my garlic that I have. I'm gonna pick out the biggest ones, break them down, have them into little bowls so I make sure which variety is which, because they all look kind of the same after a while. And then we'll go ahead and plant them. Alright, so I'm gonna get started here. Gonna start fishing out the biggest, healthiest heads of garlic from each individual variety. This variety here is called Russian Sand, and I've been growing this for at least 6 years now, and it's always been a really good producer. They're always really, really nice heads and super tasty, grows well, so we'll be planting quite a bit of this. And as you can see, sets pretty sizable heads of garlic. So I'll probably end up pulling like 3 or 4 of these out of the bag, keeping them separate here. And then once I break these down into individual cloves, I'll have a better idea of how many plants that will give me. But initially, I'm going to start just going through them, sorting them out. Biggest heads, 4 or 5 of each variety or so in a little pot, and after that, we'll start cleaning it. This variety right here is called Persian Star, also known as Samarkand. It's from Central Asia, and it's one of the ones that does the best here on our piece of land in our climate here. So as you can see, I usually end up growing a ton of it. It does really, really well here. So for this particular variety, I'll probably end up growing 2 to 3 times as much as all the other ones because I love it. It grows well. Also, if you look at it, it sets really, really big cloves. And so it's easy to peel, easy to use, all that good stuff as well. So next step is going to take our heads of garlic, break them down into individual cloves. Same way you would do this as far as cooking with garlic. You just want to make sure you keep the skins intact on the individual cloves. It protects them as they're planting so they don't rot but root. So the way I do this, I just take off a few layers of the outer bit and then just start cracking them. And then we'll save these nice big cloves like this, and then you start seeing closer to the center, you start seeing little cloves like this one. And I'll just usually have a bowl or something where these will go in a separate pile, and those all just go into the kitchen, so we'll have tons of garlic to work with in the kitchen. beds are pretty much ready to go. They were amended and tilled and gotten ready yesterday, and today I used my awesome Dutch swan neck hoe, which I love because it's got a really long handle and I don't have to bend over too much. Drove 4 trenches per bed, and so those are ready to go. These beds are about 24 feet long by about 4 feet wide, and the spacing that I love in these rows to use them the best way possible is to get 4 rows per bed. That means you get 4 rows of 24 feet each per bed, so that's 8 24-foot rows, so we're looking at just under 200 row feet of garlic. Within the rows, I plant my garlic somewhere between 4 and 6 inches apart per clove. I find that's a really good spacing. There's plenty of room for them to grow, and that way, if my math is correct, we should get anywhere between 550 and 600 heads of garlic in these 2 rows, and that's a lot. But like I said earlier, I grow a lot of this garlic as seed garlic, so quite a bit of that is just going to get used and replanted next year. And then we eat a ton of garlic around here. I love it in everything. You know, when a recipe calls for 1 clove of garlic, I see 1 head of garlic. If it grows, you know, you just got to add a whole bunch more garlic. So when it comes to actually planting, when it comes to actually planting our garlic cloves, we clean them up, and you don't want to do that cleaning up process too far ahead of time. A day before is fine, like I did. Ideally, it's the same day. You don't let them sit around like this because they start to dry out as individual cloves a lot faster than they do when it's still an entire head. So once you've got to this stage, as you can see, there's kind of like a flat end. Let me show that a little bit better. There's a flat end on the bottom and a kind of pointy end on the top, and that's how you want to plant them. The roots will come out, the root end, that was already the root end of your whole head of garlic, and the shoot will come out of this end. So you wanna plant them straight down like this into the trenches that you've dug, and you wanna push them down pretty far. They like to be pretty deep down in the ground, 2 to 3 inches down. So that's why I like to draw these trenches first, and then I stick them in here, and then I give them a little stick deep into the bed so that they're pretty much completely buried before I even fill the trenches back in. So this right here that I just put in the ground was Rose de Lautrec. Talked about it earlier. It's a beautiful pink, absolutely delicious French variety of garlic, and I love it for a lot of things. So I usually end up planting quite a bit of it. I think I just put in about 35, 40 plants or so. So the last thing you gotta make sure you do is make sure you label your rows, label which one you just put in. Do it right away, because if you forget, you're never gonna remember. So I've got these wooden stakes that I use every year, stick it on the ground. Get a hammer later and get those in there. But that way you know what that is, and then I'll leave my little spot where my little bucket is down there, where I ended that variety, and I'll finish that row out with another variety I have, of which I have very little, so that'll be just the last little bit of that row. And here we go. That's pretty much all you gotta do. I'm gonna continue planting up the rest of these beds, getting all my garlic in the ground, cover these trenches in, and then in a day or two I'm going to go get a bill of straw, because I really like to mulch them heavily after I plant them. That way they retain a lot of moisture, and it helps with weeds and all that good stuff as well. So. Hey everybody, thanks so much for watching. I really enjoyed making this video. I hope you get a bunch out of it, and I hope it inspires you to go home and plant some garlic. You will not regret it, I guarantee it. If you enjoy what we're doing, if you like our videos, if you like our content, please consider subscribing. It really helps us out. If you got any comments, questions about what we did here today, please leave a comment. We love engaging with our audience, finding out what you guys like, what you want us to do, all that good stuff. And most of all, thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. See you next time.